So hello, my name's Rob and this is Cow Rabbit Scale Model Studios, and in this video, if you're excited for Necromunda Hive Secundus, I'm going to be showing you how to get your Hive Secundus scenery onto the tabletop incredibly quickly. We can actually paint up a piece of these in about 20 minutes, which is about 10 minutes per side. It's going to end up looking something like this. I've added a few extra details, and don't worry, I will show you how to do the extra stuff at the end of the video, or towards the end, shall we say. I wanted to do a really quick method so people that were just getting into Hive Secundus or wanted some Hive Secundus themed scenery could get it on the tabletop really quickly. This is about 10 minutes aside and only uses 3 paints, but it's really easy to do, so let's dive in. So before we get started, please do like and subscribe. It really helps me out. I really do appreciate it, and it helps my videos do well. I never really ask for money or anything like that or support. I do have a Patreon, but there's no rewards, just a few monthly giveaways with Joy Toy bits. I'll leave a link below if you're interested. But it helps YouTube pay me more if the video does well, which means I get to do more cool stuff like this, which I really enjoy doing the scenery stuff. I'll also leave any links to social media down below, Instagram, yada. And also, if anything gets updated, I will leave it in the description box below. So do check back if you're watching from the future. Forgot to say that was a good one. But first we're just going to pick a bit. I'm going to use this door section here, as you've probably seen from the thumbnail, and I'm going to let you into a secret. Is I made a big mistake here. Don't glue the feet on. I stupidly glued the feet on, which means that it didn't sit flat on my workbench, which means it tilted back slightly. So I had to be quite careful of how, I didn't want my shades or things like that running into one. But the first thing we do need to do, regardless, is we need to prime our bit. And for this, I'm going to use lead belcher. Any silver spray will work. Lead belcher is a fantastic one. Always gives a smooth finish. Never had a problem with lead belcher. Sulfured silver from Colourforge is also a very good option. It's a bigger can as well, and the same finish, lovely and smooth. Two brands that I always use. So now we've got our piece sprayed. I've done a couple of light passes. We've got a lovely smooth finish. This is going to be the basis for everything. And as you can see, I've had to prop it up using my cobby clippers, which was again a side effect of putting the feet on. We need 2 paints, Coelia Green Shade and Achillean Green Contrast Paint. Now, one thing you might not realise, especially if you're a newer hobbyist or this is your first foray into doing something like this, washes and contrast paint mix so well. Give them both a really good shake, and then open them both up onto your tabletop. Like I'm doing here, we want both our paints ready and available. Do keep a little pot of water on the side just in case, but don't worry too much. Now the next thing we're going to need is a brush. A decent brush is going to go a long way. Things like these Citadel shade brushes are really good for this, especially if you're going to be doing production lines of these, which I do advise you do with this method to get them all done quickly. I'll show you how to do that later. I'm going to be using this Tatio. I think this was the first shade brush I ever bought 6 years ago. It is awful, but it's fantastic at the same time. As you can see here, the feet are on. It's causing me no end of trouble. Leave the feet off before you do this. Trust me, you'll thank me later. And all we're going to do with this, we're going to really load up our brush with our Coelia Green Shade. Like, I'm going to go ham on this. Don't worry. You can move it around. You can soak it up. Try and avoid doing this on really warm days, because the shade will dry really quickly. But all we're going to do, we're just going to do the first half, the top half of this scenery piece. We're going to absolutely coat this piece in this shake paint, as you can see here. Don't worry about slapping it on thick. As I said, we can always move it away and move it around afterwards. One thing shades and contrast are notorious for is when they dry, you get like smudges and blotches because of how it's sat on the the flatter surfaces. Don't worry about that. We're going to actually we use that to our advantage. It's Necromunda. It should look dirty, should look a little bit inconsistent, and we're going to fix that later. Next, I am going to get my Achillean Green, if you've seen here, and I'm going to work up to where my Coelia Green Shade finish. So I'm doing the top half Coelia Green Shade and the bottom half Achillean Green. Again, just work it all into all the little nooks and crannies. Don't worry about loading your brush up too much. We can always remove excess. Once we've got everything kind of done, I'm going to come in with Coelia Green Shade, and this is still wet. I'm not giving this a chance to dry, and I'm literally just bang in the middle. I'm just going to agitate this line, and what we're actually doing by doing this, we're pulling the Achillean into Coelia and the Coelia into the Achillean. My God, that's a mouthful, but we're actually forcing it to mix. And what will actually happen, because they're really, really watery paints, and the way they kind of operate as paints, they'll just naturally mix. So you don't need to do too much about, like, you don't need to do perfect blending or anything like that. And effectively we're wet blending these two paints on this piece of scenery together. And then once you're happy with your transition line, what we need to do is we need to let the whole thing dry. At this point is when I would do my next piece. Same method again. I'd quickly wash out my brush. As you can see here on screen, I'm using a hairdryer to just dry this part a little bit quickly. But if you did all these, I mean, that last part took about 2.5 minutes. You could actually get all like 7 pieces done. And by the time you've done your last one, your first one will be dry. So as you can see here, we've got that really cool transition going to the deep side, to the like the green. This is perfect what we want for Secundus. It really kind of captures the feel of the box art. But next, what we're going to do is we're going to get some lead belcher and a big dry brush. And what we're going to do is, and I've done a video on dry brushing, I'll leave in the comments below, or I'll link it in the top right hand corner now. But all we're going to do is we're going to remove all the excess and just back and forth. We're going to go horizontally and then vertically. And as you can see already, all that detail is being brought to life. It's really making all those rivets and those kind of beams and struts stand out. That's exactly what we want. Just work your way around it. We're going to focus on all of the sharp edges first. And then to remove these kind of blotches and to smooth it out, what we're going to do is just in a circular motion, really lightly, we're just going to let that silver just build up on those flatter surfaces. And what it's going to do is kind of almost like just ease out those blotches and those splodges so it's less visible. They're still going to be there, don't get me wrong, but it's going to be really less visible, and it's going to look more natural, like a metal that's weathered and dirty, than it is going to be like someone slapped a load of shades on. So just take your time with this stage, and this is why I say once again, production line this, because you'll thank me for it as well, and you'll get all your scenery done really, really quickly. Just keep doing it. And as you can see, I've gone over a couple of times and a couple of passes. It's looking really, really cool. Now, I would probably leave this here. That is it. We're done. That's the whole method for doing this. If you wanted to do all your scenery to this standard, I would probably advise doing that first. So get them all to this level, literally just, you know, one after each other, one after each other. By the time you've done your last one, your first one's dry. It just makes so much sense to kind of do it that way. But we can push this a little bit further. And how I'm going to do that is by adding some dirt, some grime, and some pops of colour. Now, what I like to do is I come in with a brighter silver. This is gunmetal silver from Army Painter, but Runefang Steel or Storm something silver from Citadel works just as well. I'm being a bit lighter this time, but I am just going to focus it, you know, on like the beams to catch and stuff like that. And this is just going to further iron out any kind of imperfections, as you can see. Now on the tabletop next to miniatures, this is going to look fantastic. This is like, you know, as I say, the standard. I would probably always do this extra step just because I find it finishes off the piece quite nicely. But there is so much more we can do. These pieces are actually 7 years old. We first saw these in when Necromunda got unreleased. I think it was 2017. These little barricades and stuff like that. I still wouldn't have glued the feet on at this point, and you know, I would concentrate on one side each, as I've, you know, said twice already in the video. It just makes life so much easier, you know, to work with. You can see I haven't done the other side yet. I'm not going to be disingenuous and make it out like I did the whole thing. I haven't. I've just done one side. But what we can do now, and what I would advise doing, is I'd pick up each piece once they're all to this level, and I would just maybe pick out a little bit of colour. Here I'm going to paint the door yellow because I'm going to do some hazard stripes. As you can see, it's just going to add a little bit of visual interest, just one thing to look at. I'm going to get some thin down scrag brown, and I mean really thin down scrag brown, and I'm going to let it run into all like little struts and stuff like this, just to make some dirt. I'll streak some down to make it look like it's dripped and stuff like that. There's loads you can do with these little pieces, and if you wanted to, you could add little blood spatters to maybe tell a little bit of story, you know, a bloody handprint on the door, stuff like that works wonders in Necromunda, really brings it to life. I've masked off where I'm going to do my hazard stripes. Again, I've got a video on this, I'll leave it in the comments below. Really easy. These Tamiya weathering masters I use all the time. I think they're really, really good, and lately what I've been doing is my chaperone stripes for my hazards with this kind of gunmetal colour. I use the sponge applicator and I literally just dab it on, and rather than give me a really deep black finish, it almost gives me like this really worn grey finish. So when I actually peel them off now, as you can see, I've kind of got this really, it looks like it's really faded. And then what I like to do is I get something like Mechanica Standard Grey and I just add some defined spots, neaten up any like edges or anything where the powder's got under the masking tape, and that's it. It gives a really, really cool effect. I did go back later and add a little bit of graffiti. That's just written in with a fine detail brush, and that's it. You know, I would consider this piece done. It's really easy. If you've got any other weathering powders, stick them at the bottom, a little bit of rust, job's a good one. But this stuff is designed for being painted up really, really quickly, and it works really, really well. But that's it. Let me know if you're going to pick up Hive Secundus. I think it's a fantastic box set. Check out my unboxing in the top right hand corner now or whatever. Yeah, enjoy it. I've really enjoyed Hive Secundus. It's a great box set, and let's get that scenery on the table nice and quick and not play with those horrible grey pieces. But look, that's it from me in this one. I will see you all next time. God bless and take care.